All right, back with more DC training, cycling for pennies Q&A. I'm going to jump back into this. This is from the original cycling for pennies thread. I think this is, I don't know if it's still up anywhere, but it used to be up on intensemuscle.com if you want to check out the thread. It may still be up there. I'm not 100% sure. That's Skip Hill's forum. That's where all the dog crap stuff used to be. Was over there. Once upon a time, I was a moderator on that forum. Um, but I got booted off of there for not participating. Anyway, so let's dig into this. Oh, I forgot. Most important thing before I go into this, please, if you enjoy the video, hit that like button. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. I get tons of people watching. I mean, I'm getting, thousands of views and not that many people subscribing. I would really, really appreciate it if you subscribe. It helps my channel. It feeds the algorithm. It makes my posts or my videos go up further in the searches on YouTube. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. All right, let's get into this. So next question on the Q&A for DC training. Question here. I recently found I was overtrained. I had no appetite. I had no sex drive. Even though I was on 800 milligrams of test a week, I was sleepy all the time. I was doing something similar, except maybe a little more volume to what your training is. I was doing 2 working sets. My muscles were fine, but I wasn't getting any bigger or stronger. I was just staying the same. All I can guess is that my central nervous system was burned out. Any thoughts? Dante's response. Without knowing your exact routine, it's hard to say. I use extreme stretching and an abundance of glutamine to help my recovery ability. Some of your symptoms sound like high estrogen. Possibly. I'm just, could be high estrogen. I don't know. But as far as CNS, my personal opinion, I think 20 sets of hard leg workout stresses out my central nervous system far more than 5 sets of a workout of half my body. The 2 biggest mistakes I ever made were when I believed that you must do this or that thing. When I got to 200 pounds of body weight, I started doing 3 on, 1 off workouts with 8 to 16 sets per body part. Sometimes my leg workouts went 3.5 hours. I believe that you must do this exercise for the outer quad, and this exercise for inner chest, and that exercise for lower pec, and so on. It was a complete waste of 2 years of lifting for me. I had insomnia, CNS overstimulation, and severe overtraining. I was exhausted all the time, and I had loss of appetite. I feel sorry for beginning bodybuilders. No matter what they read or who they listen to, it's hard to convince them that they don't have to do a lot to grow. You don't have to do it short, heavy, and intense, and let protein take the recovery take their course. Usually a newbie bodybuilder's enthusiasm wins out over his deductive reasoning, and he wastes about 2 or 3 years of lifting or gives up altogether. The other mistake I made was I was friends with Dan Duchesne. Dan was, for those of you who don't know who Dan Duchesne was, he was a pretty controversial figure back in the 90s. A lot of the modern drug protocols came from Dan Duchesne, but he was known to be a rather odd dude. He lived like 4 miles from me. After a lot of arguing back and forth over our different approaches to dieting, I gave his nutrient-dense repartitioning diet a chance for a year. Guess what? I gained about 1 pound of muscle during that time. Never again. I know the human body doesn't like to dramatically change unless you give it a reason to. So heavy training and 550 grams of protein a day will do it. So my thoughts on this one. Dante, I'm surprised he didn't talk about it here, but in his system, he had basically a deload program, and you would train hard for 4 or 5, 6 weeks, and then take a week or 2 to pull your training intensity back. Usually, it was like half the weights that you normally would use, and he was really one of the first people to use a deload. It's kind of crazy that people were talking about CNS fatigue back then, because there wasn't a lot of people talking about that. It used to be 90s weightlifting principle was balls to the wall all the fucking time until the wheels fell off. There were no deloads. Nobody knew anything about CNS. And he was right about a lot of that stuff. And, on the diet part of it, yeah, I think a lot of guys get too afraid of getting fat. There are the opposites. There are the other dudes that eat like shit all the time for the sake of bulking and get unnecessarily fat. But I think a lot of guys have this fear of getting fat and don't eat enough to actually get big. And in my experience, it's a lot easier to diet off the fat than it is to put on muscle. So there's a fine line you got to walk. If you get too fat and when you diet, you're going to lose a bunch of the muscle you gained. But you do have to eat a ton to get big. That's just the way it is. Next question. My goal is to hit 250 pounds at 8% body fat. This is going to be a real hurdle for me. My problem lies with trying to calculate the amount of protein, glutamine that I will need to get me there. Some say 1.5 times per the current pound of body weight, while others say 1.5 times the goal weight. What do you think? I find out 9 times out of 10 that when somebody stops gaining, it's a diet problem. 8 out of 10 times that same lifter wrongly thinks he's overtraining or his workouts are off. The other 2 out of 10 times the person thinks it's not enough steroids the problem. I keep trying to tell the people it's a supply and demand. If you can make a demand with hard enough training, you can meet the supply with an abundance of protein grams. I love that when people come out to me with a problem of not making any gains, they go through this intricate workout, supplements, and a steroid fix with me. And all I say is double the serving size on all your protein and make sure your post-workout drink is 100 grams at least. Guess what? They start gaining again. Trust me on this one. Food, especially protein, is your primary anabolic agent. I challenge you, try to take in 500 grams of protein a day for 6 months and come back to me and tell me what you look like. Training is the engine. Food, especially protein, is the gasoline. Steroids are the nitrous oxide system. Also, if you're not meeting your energy requirements, getting enough carbs and fat, some of your protein you're ingesting is going to be used for a fuel source. I like to add omega-3s and monounsaturated fats. They are roughly 118 calories per tablespoon. I throw in 2 or 3 tablespoons in my morning and afternoon shakes, but not in the post-workout shake or bedtime ones. Go slow with the oils. You will be seat belting yourself to the toilet for a couple of days. As far as the diet, I'm like Dave Palumbo in this aspect. I like high protein, moderate, good fats, and low to moderate carbs. I eat the amount of protein grams I want to ingest before 7 p.m., and I satisfy the rest with my hunger carbs. If I go to McDonald's, I'll blast many hamburgers as I can and skip the fries. You might be laughing at me, but it's true. After 7 p.m., I will go high protein with a trace amount of low carbs. For example, I might have a steak and a lot of vegetables, but no rice and pasta. I train fairly lean, but I still have them gaining at the highest rate. I will tell you, when I worked with Dante, he used to have me eating as many double cheeseburgers as I could from McDonald's. I would go there after my workout and just pound double cheeseburgers. It did put weight on me, I will say that. I'm not a calorie counter at all. I'm a protein gram counter. I weigh myself and others once a month on the same scale, and if they're not gaining, I know they're not getting enough protein in. Only then I will add some fats. And I will add some fats and extra carbs. I trained a 188-pound former NFL cornerback, and 1 year I got him up to 232 pounds, and then he stopped gaining. I tried everything to get him going, but beyond his protein intake, I just couldn't get him to get enough food down the hatch. I really got on his ass too about it. He was burning up everything. I knew he loved ice cream, so I said, fuck it. Get your protein in, but pound down a half a gallon of ice cream every day before 6 p.m. He did, and very quickly after that, he shot up to 265 with striations everywhere. Moral of the story, I got no idea. Everyone is different, so I don't follow a prescribed diet method outside of the protein intake. This is all right. So my take on this. This is where things have really, really evolved over the last decade or so. Views on diet have changed dramatically. We know now through study after study after study after study, you do not need to eat that much protein. Essentially, what ends up happening when you have that much excess protein, it through gluconeogenesis, it just gets converted into carbohydrates anyway. Now, protein does have a thermic effect, so something like 20% of that excess protein you eat probably gets burned up in the conversion to carbohydrates. So that probably keeps you lean while you're gaining weight, but really it seems a waste. It's hard on your digestive system eating that much protein. Anyone's eaten that much protein before, you're farting like a rhino in heat, especially with the protein powders. I cannot tolerate protein powders anymore now that I've gotten older. It's just like some switch has flipped when I got past 40, and I might be able to get away with one here and there, but man, if I start eating protein powder regularly, it tears my stomach up. Even the best hydrolyzed whey isolate, whatever, ionized, blah, 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 whey isolate just fucks my gut up. I got to eat whole foods. But I all the studies that I've seen say that somewhere around 0.7, 0.8 grams per pound is more than adequate for hypertrophy, but I'll push it up to 1.25, maybe even 1.5 if I'm dieting. And then I fill in the rest with carbs. I think that's the thing that's changed. A lot of these new bodybuilders that you see have that really, really full round look actually aren't eating a ton of protein like they used to. They're pounding carbs now and using insulin to drive those carbs into the muscle. So I think that aspect of it has changed. Now, certainly you can't go wrong. If you want to eat 2 grams of protein per pound, it's not, or, eat 500 grams of protein a day, it's not the end of the world. It's just hard to digest. I think it's really hard to get that much protein down. It's certainly not, unless you have some sort of major kidney problem, it's not going to hurt you. But I think long term, this is another thing that I don't hear bodybuilders talking about, is a lot of bodybuilders, when they get in their 40s, they end up having major digestive issues and stomach issues, ulcers, hiatal hernias, acid reflux, ulcerative colitis, IBS, all these issues. And I think it's from the supplements or orals fuck your stomach up, and pounding way too much protein. I think over time it damages your digestive tract, and now we're more aware of digestive health than we used to. So I kind of go moderate with the protein now, and I've gotten plenty big, and I see plenty of people that get plenty big on moderate protein. At the end of the day, I think it's a calorie game. You got to push the calories up to get big. All right, next question. How do you go about cutting body fat? Dante's response: I am a firm believer in using cardio to take the body fat off instead of screwing with a diet that built the muscle. The main problem with bodybuilders preparing for shows is they drastically change their diet. The one that made them huge in the first place. It's almost like they're overcome with panic thinking about dropping body fat, but there are guys around huge in the off season and show and contests and look like scarecrows having lost 30 pounds of muscle. I've been there. I like people to stay with the diet, but unlike in the off season, to be really strict with it at night. My approach is no carbs after 7 p.m. Combined with no carbs after 7 p.m., I'll have them do 45 minutes of fasted cardio in the morning, toss in some fat burning compound, and this works like a charm. In a rare case it doesn't work for someone, I will make them go in a low carb phase. I haven't had a problem with getting anyone shredded, so until I do, there's not much I can say. In my opinion, the most important thing to do is not panic and change your diet. Your training and continue eating for size is what built you in the first place. Let the cardio do its work and take the body fat off of you. I'm under the opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This means what you did for training and protein wise to get huge in the off season will keep you huge while cutting. I like people to train as heavy still, but be in a safe rep range. I want them to keep their protein high and their carbs low at night, and to let the cardio and the supplements take it off. I am sorry to be so simple, but an hour of fasted cardio in the morning, whatever the fat burning components you're using, ECA, clean, etc., is going to get you shredded. Severely changing your diet, panicking, and being obsessively compulsive with the cardio is a surefire way of coming in flat, catabolized, in a shadow of what you should be up there on the stage. I trained a guy a couple years back that wanted to compete. He was 287 pounds, and I told him he wasn't ready. He had just gotten to that weight. I brought him up from the 240s, but I felt he needed some time to get his weaker body parts up before competing. He wanted me to train him for the show, but I refused, and he was pissed. He went for it on his own, and the guy was so obsessive compulsive. He ate tuna and chicken and rice 4 to 5 times a day, did cardio 2 or 3 times a day for 45 minutes to an hour for his routine. And guess what? He weighed 206 pounds on stage. The same guy that was 287 pounds and fairly hard in the off season, he got smoked at that show. Finished 13th out of 16 competitors. If he had had his head on straight, he could have come in at 237 or 240 and done much better. My thoughts on this. Dante wasn't big on calorie counting. A lot of people were back then. I mean, not many people were measuring and weighing food. It was all just kind of speculation back then, for a lot of people. I mean, I know there were some people that were, certainly the pros were. Diet has come a long way since then. At the end of the day, losing body fat is a calorie deficit game. Yeah, you can create a deficit in multiple ways. You can create a deficit by doing more cardio. So essentially, that's what he would have people do: eat the same food, but they create their deficit by doing more cardio. Or you can cut food back, or some combination of both, or use fat burners, which are going to up your metabolism, which essentially creates a calorie deficit. So I don't know. I have definitely over dieted and come in flat. I've done that, and it's certainly something to be aware of. And I do think guys do push the panic button sometimes and over diet or overdo cardio. You got to find the right balance. That is for sure. So I do somewhat agree with that, but the details of the diet have changed. Most people now are cutting calories as they get progressively closer to the show. In fact, it probably goes the opposite way. They cut calories rather than doing a shit ton of cardio. Cardio seems to be what makes you, too much cardio seems to be what makes you stringy. At least from what I've seen, it gets you depleted. If you could keep your carbs a little higher, or you have a few high days a week, and keep yourself nice and full, that helps. Anyway, I think we're going to stop there for today. We'll do another one of these. Hopefully you guys find this helpful. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. If you want to get in contact with me or follow me personally, you can do that on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Paul K. Barnett. Have a great day.